Hello again, this is Christian Toth with Coachstop Motorworks, and today I'm pretty excited. So I've been looking everywhere, crawling the forums, and asking a bunch of my Facebook page groups about what transmission to mount in my car. And I actually was looking on a Facebook Marketplace and found it's called a T10 Ford 4-speed that I think would work for what I'm looking to do. So the guy was asking $50. I think it needed to be rebuilt and stuff. So I was like, what do I got to lose? So I actually went out there yesterday and was going to pick it up for $50, you know, because I just want to make sure that it mounted my engine. And I started talking to him and about what I'm doing here and what engine I'm going to be mounting it to. He said, well, actually, I think this would be a better application. And we go back in the shop. He's got like 5 cars he's working on, a bunch of Fords, old ones. He's got an old Mustang and trucks, but he had like 5 other transmissions. And he's like, you really should go with a top loader, a 4-speed top loader. So it's a 3-speed with an overdrive. So that's actually what I picked up. So I think this is gonna be the ticket. This is gonna be what I need. So as you can see, this is what I have here. And what's awesome, so I need to paint it up, wire brush and paint it, but I already have my shift linkage on here, so all I need to do is get my shift knob, and so it's just fine, just cool. So I guess I would. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. I'm pretty pumped. So I got to put my bolts on here, but it says Orion. But yeah, overall, pretty good transmission. Hi. Sorry. All right. So this is Christian Toth with Coachstop Motorworks, and I have to say, one, I'm sorry for the lack of videos. It's not for a lack of trying. There's been a lot of shooting. But I've only really lasted the first 5 minutes. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you why. Well, I guess let's go ahead and first show you. So, as you know, I pulled the whole idea for this project was I was having transmission issues. So if I was going to take the transmission out, I was going to take the engine out. So the idea was to put another engine in it because I found a really good deal on a 6-cylinder. Another 6-cylinder that I thought would be great. Because it would bolt right in and be refreshed and kind of curb some of the future issues I might have, and that's all my work of putting new transmission in would not be for naught. So what I probably haven't told you yet is the fact that I did find a transmission. I found a top loader, Ford top loader, and the one I have is a 3-speed with an overdrive, so I have 4 gears, which is going to be a great improvement for my highway driving. I'm not just roaring in 3rd gear from 30 miles an hour to 50 or however high I feel like taking it. So 4-speed was definitely the most ideal. Now the trick is finding a way to get the 4-speed to match my 6-cylinder engine. So what I did was I did find a bell housing, which is right here. So this bell housing is a bolt pattern for a V8 engine. Now, I already said this would bolt up. What I did find out is it will bolt up to a 6-cylinder 200 cubic inch, 66 and above, not 65. So the 65 engine that I bought that's been quote-unquote rebuilt is now over here. So I dropped it off at a local engine shop here in Finksburg, Maryland, called Mark Small Machine Shop. Awesome shop. They have test stands, big engines, race engines that they do. So I thought, before I fire this thing up, let's do a little fact checking. So I did that. Came back with bad news. The head isn't cracked or anything, which is a big problem with these, because the intake is built into the head. It's not cracked or anything, which is great, but the underside needed to be machined. And a bunch of the valves need to be replaced, and lifters, all stuff that I thought was redone the right way. It turns out it wasn't. So I got a bill for around $2,000, maybe more, to rebuild it. And so I'm not going to rebuild an engine that, one, I thought was already rebuilt, and two, would not match my transmission. So at this point I was kind of sunk and I didn't know what I was going to do. So the guy calls me up and says, hey, I actually have this 6-cylinder Ford engine in here. It's a 250 cubic inch. So if you're not really familiar with these inline 6 engines, Ford did have a 250, which is the largest second largest 6-cylinder, next to the Ford 300 that wouldn't fit, but 250 would. So they're actually really popular in Australia. They build these up. They put you put a new head on it. They would put bigger carburetors on it, 1 or 3, and also some of them even turboed it, because what they could build the power and get I forget how the ratio works, but they could get more than 250 horsepower out of a 250 cubic inch engine, which is a huge accomplishment, and the power to weight ratio was extremely high. So that was really popular in Australia. So not that I'm going to be turboing, but the guy said, yeah, we actually have one of these 250s that's been in our shop. It's been sitting in the back for about 4 years. Guy had it rebuilt and never picked it up. So without further ado, let's give you guys a look at it. So this is my 250. It's been painted, it's been completely rebuilt, it's been decked. Let's go over some of these specs. One thing that's really cool is they put a performance cam in it. So I have this box of parts that came with it. Trying to think. That's for my clutch. Oh, here we go. So I have an Urson cam. So I don't know much about them. I know it's a performance cam. I don't know the specs on it, but I have a lot of, here's the data on it, on my camshaft, and all about break-in procedure. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to be doing that together for the first time, and hope it all goes well. Pretty cool. So this is going to be the break-in procedure. This is all the, here's the data for it. So these are the overlap, running clearance, all that good stuff. So let me give you some data on this. So I actually forgot the paper, but I have a picture of it. So I'll try to show up here and link it in here with my my video. So let's see some of the let's run down this list of what they've done to this engine. Disassemble and clean, mag the block, turn the crank, bore 6 cylinders, 30 over, torque and spec all and align the bore, recondition the rods, deck the 6-cylinder block, hang pistons, delete EGR, resurface exhaust manifold, mag the head, cut and replace guides, a 6-cylinder valve job, mill the head, recondition rocker shaft, assemble, complete, do the valves, the valve guides, the Viton seals, Mel rocker shaft, master engine kit includes piston rings, main bearings, cam bearings, cam lifters, oil pump, timing set, gasket set, freeze plugs, new water pump, carburetor gasket lower, Ford blue paint, balance repair sleeves, oil filter, replace the points, condenser, rotor, distributor, plug wires, spark plugs, push rods, exhaust main bearing hardware, or exhaust manifold hardware, oil, brake-in oil, PCV valve grommet, remove and reinstall cam bearings, remove and reinstall freeze plugs. So that's a huge list. Some of it I don't even, not even familiar with, but the confidence is high. So just to give you kind of a heads up on, if you want to get all that done to your engine, what would it cost? $4,300. So I'm not going to tell you what I paid for it, but it definitely wasn't that much. So the guy was eager to get it out of his shop, wanted to put to good use. I definitely kind of pulled the card of, I'm trying to get this car ready for my wedding. It was my grandfather's. It was mine when I was 16, but it's been in the barn for the past 4 years, and the whole spiel. Pulled out all my cards, and he was actually really cool about it. And I'm just super excited. More than I was initially going to spend on the engine work, but hopefully it's not something that I have to revisit. So that sense of confidence and assurance is definitely worth its weight, and worth the price. So let's do a little look around on the engine. So here's my distributor. Points has been redone. It's a new cap, new plug wires, new spark plugs. This flamethrower coil is from my engine from before, something I put on with a pointless ignition system from Pertronics probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I'm going to probably run it the way it is now because I think the distributor's kind of already been clocked and timed correctly for this engine. I have to do some research to see if that pointless distributor that I do have is the same for this 250 versus a 200. So let's keep going around. It's just in really good shape. Obviously it's been rebuilt. Yeah, so here. One of the biggest things, this was actually initially for a automatic. So I had a flywheel on it that was a little larger, and it was made for an automatic. So I had to get a flywheel that would fit this 250. It's extremely hard to figure out parts for this. This engine actually came from a Ford Maverick. I think it was a 73 is what I was told. So it's not like I can just call up a Mustang shop and tell them, hey, I got a 250, what do I put here, what do I put there? They don't really know. Also, a side note, so it's been a little while since I've worked on the Mustang and bought parts for it, probably about 10 years or so. Back then I was always talking to CJ Pony Parts and California Mustang. What I found out is California Mustang doesn't exist anymore. They've been bought out. And CJ Pony Parts is a pain. Every time I call, it's an hour and a half wait time to talk to someone. So I have to leave a voicemail and they call me back an hour and a half. And it might be working, or it's really hard to get a hold of them. I was very disappointed actually because they're up in PA, close to me. So it's my best choice and opportunity to get parts because I can get it in a day or so. So I was talking to my boss, and he actually turned me on to this company called Kentucky Mustang. Every time I've called them, not only have I been talking to the same guy, but they pick up right away. Very smart about it. They weren't as familiar with this 250, but they're more than happy to do the research and help me through this. So shout out to Kentucky Mustang, and I'll put links.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned for part 2.